great day. Today we're going to be replacing the front brakes on a 2015 Ford Transit 350. I believe it's an XLT. Remove this, the hammer. Remove the wheel. Alright, remove the tire. Now we'll do a visual inspection, and holy shit, that is bad. Alright, so we got these 5 bolts loosened up. Now, inside these holes, you can spin this, and it'll line up with these bolts. Realize we gotta remove this. Alright, so we got all these bolts loosened up. Now we're going to completely remove this bolt, this bolt, this bolt, and this bolt. The caliper will come off. We'll set it aside so we don't break this hose. Ew, look at that thing. It's gross. Not anymore. Alright, so these 2 bolts will hold on to the caliper, and then this will come right off. Dirty. Put that aside. And then these bolts. And then these bigger bolts will come off. Which holds this together. For those bolts, after those bolts are taken out, this piece will come off. And all this does is hold these. Yeah. That's not supposed to look like that. That's what it's kind of supposed to look like. A little bit of pad left here. That's what the roller looks like. Yeah, rotor's not supposed to look like that. It's supposed to look like not that bad. Caliper off in the bracket. We can remove these 5 bolts, and then these 5 bolts, and then this whole thing will come off. I have a little magnet here. I'm just gonna have to pull each of them out. Alright, got all those bolts out. So now, since I am replacing this, I'm just going to spin it, tap it on the back, and this whole hub should come right off. Alright, so it's pretty stuck on there. Same with the brake rotor. This whole piece here should come off as one, except for I took the brake rotor bolts out as well, so it'll come off as 2 pieces. So I'm gonna use my handy dandy hammer here, kind of tap on it as I'm pulling it, and hopefully I can undo the rust that's back there. But damn, that's pretty bad. Look here, you can see this is where it will separate right here. Between this and this. Hopefully I can get that broke free. I hope so. Alright, so it was stuck pretty bad. So what I did is I put these 5 bolts back in to hold the brake rotor in, and then I would literally... Alright, so we got it off. I'm going to take these 5 bolts off. tap on the rotor. As you see here, back here, there's where the rotor is. That's where the rotor bolts in. We're gonna have to give it a few little love taps here. Alright, so like I said, just a few little love taps. And it's broke free, so now we can spin it so this tab here can go out. Here's the brake rotor. We'll just go ahead and pull that out. Whew. Yeah. We can go ahead and toss that aside. Take a wire brush or something and clean off these surfaces, clean this thing up, and then clean this up. As well as we'll have to clean that up. We got the new brake rotor here. That is what a brake rotor is supposed to look like. Okay. How nice that looks. So it's really important that you take some brake clean and wipe all this grease off. Alright, so when you're tightening these bolts, you want to do it by hand at first and in a star pattern, making sure to seat the brake rotor up against the hub nice and evenly. Then we will take our torque wrench, set it to 22 foot-pounds. We'll tighten it till it clicks, and then we'll turn it 90 degrees. In the star pattern, we tighten these bolts down to 22 foot-pounds, and then 90 degrees in the star pattern. You also want to make sure this thing is clean, as well as these guys. Alright, so the easiest way to do this is going to be to turn these, and then we'll slide a bolt in through one of these. Okay. Alright, so the easiest way is going to be to put a bolt in, and then we'll line it up with that. We'll tighten that first bolt, and then we'll put the rest of the bolts in. Alright, so all I did was I put the first bolt in, lifted the thing up as a whole, tightened down that bolt by hand. Now I can pivot it and put the rest of these bolts in. So now we'll just pivot that one and push that bolt forward. So now we'll tighten that one by hand. Line the hole. Alright, so we're going to tighten the first one by hand. We're going to sit flush. And the rest of these will be a lot lot easier to put in. And the reason we put it in by hand at first, not by the drill, is so we don't cross thread it. Because if you cross thread it, you gotta replace it. Nope, not perfect. Now we'll just go in a star pattern and tighten these down until they're flush. Alright, so now that they're done, these Torx bolts. Alright, so now that that's done, these Torx bolts are going to be tightened to 46 foot-pounds. And the easiest way to do this is gonna have Alright, so the easiest way we're gonna do this is to have a pry bar in between some of these studs while we're tightening to stop it from spinning, because it might spin on us. Alright, so we're gonna take our torque wrench here, a mini extension, and the bit. We're going to torque these down to 46 foot-pounds. Also, don't forget we're going to do it in a star pattern, so after this one, we'll do this one, and then this one, and then this one, and then this one, and then we'll go back over it one more time, just to make sure it's tight. Right, so we got our brake caliper here. We got our new pads. It looks like they usually come with these clips as well, but they didn't, so we're going to have to reuse these clips. So all we're going to do is just clean up these clips. We're going to have to clean these up because this one's kind of sticking. So we'll pull these off and grease these. Yep, so all we're going to do here is we're going to pull this guy off of here. I'm going to clean that up because it's nasty. And then we got some brake lubricant here. Don't really need a lot. Just enough to coat the whole thing with your finger. Alright, so that's done. Yeah, nice and smooth. Now we're going to take a wire brush here, clean the inside of these, and we'll apply just a little bit of grease inside of here so the brake pad's move nice and easy. Alright, so these ones don't really have an orientation as far as which side goes where. But it's really important that you put the pads towards the rotor. You think you wouldn't have to say that, but there are a lot of dumb people out there who apparently would do that. And doesn't want to go. So I find it easiest to put one side in. And then angle it, and then put the other side in. Like that. There's one. Now the other side is missing the clip. Not too big a deal, because it's not really going to go anywhere. Some of them do matter because it actually holds the brake pad in, but this one it doesn't really matter all that much. Alright, let's go bolt it up to the car. We'll go on there just like that. Remember, with the pads towards the rotor. Alright, so we'll go ahead and put these bigger bolts in here just to hold the bracket in place. That way we can work on the caliper. Alright, so the goal here is to push these pistons in both at the same time, not one then the other. So what we're going to do is we're going to take an old pad here, place it up against it, And then I like to use a C-clamp. They do make tools for this that you can rent from AutoZone or buy off the tool truck. Yeah, so all we're gonna do is make sure that's in the center, that's in the center. We're gonna start twisting it closed. If one starts closing in more than the other, what I'll do is I'll adjust this towards the other side. That way I can start closing that one in more. Okay. This one's pretty easy. Get there. You wanna make sure that's nice up and flush there. Basically just turn it till it stops. And we'll take this off. Like that. Good as new. I would suggest kind of cleaning up some of this rust so it doesn't spread. And then all we're gonna do, and all we're gonna do is put it over the new stuff. Put your bolts in. I like to put one bolt in to hold it in, and I can align the other one. We'll have to push this in so it'll slide over it. And then we'll put the other bolt in. Look at that. We'll tighten all 4 of these bolts by hand, this one and this one. So a lot of times, while you're tightening this caliper bolt here, this slide will actually spin, so you can take a pair of channel lock pliers or something and hold that in place. I like to take an adjustable wrench. It works a lot better than pliers. Because if you'll notice here, there are 2 flat sides that you can touch. Just make sure you don't ruin this boot, otherwise you'll have to replace that. So we'll just tighten this by hand. We'll tighten the other side by hand. Alright, let's talk about torque specs. These 5 bolts are 22 foot-pounds, and then you'll turn them 90 degrees, so you cannot reuse these because they're torqued to your yield bolts, so you gotta replace them. These Torx bolts are torqued to 46 foot-pounds. These 2 big bolts are torqued to 203 foot-pounds. That's correct, 203. And then these are torqued to, I forgot. And then these 2 are torqued to 44 foot-pounds. Alright, so if you need help tightening these down, all I do is set it up like that. That way you're pulling up. I'll put my knee under it, and I'll lift with my knee. That's tight. Alright, this side is completely done. So all we're going to do is put the wheel back on, and then we're going to torque the bolts down to 150 foot-pounds. Oof. Look what I found on the ground. Now I get to take this whole thing apart, but that's okay. All I have to do is take the caliper off, and then take this brake pad out. I'll put this thing in, lube it up, and we'll put it back together. Yep, so if you're doing something like that, all you gotta do, take out one of these bolts, and then this will slide right up here. I took out the bottom bolt because this brake line gets in the way of tightening that bolt, so it's easier. And then all I'm gonna do is take this out of here. I can just put that, I'll just set it aside for now. Take this and put it up in there. You can usually tell how it goes because there's this little notch right here, and then there's this little bump right here, and that just goes right away. Just like that. We'll clean that up, put a little bit of lube on it. Don't put lube on your rotor. then you won't stop. All right, so we got it all put back together. Everything's tightened down to torque specs. Now we're gonna take some brake clean. We're gonna wipe out all this grease that's on here. Now, I would not suggest using this on painted surfaces because this stuff likes to strip paint. However, it does dry. Look how quick that dries. All right, we put the wheel on. We torqued these down to 150 foot-pounds. We'll slap this back on, and we'll do the other side. All right, so on the passenger side, remove this. Remove these bolts. Now we'll beat it with a hammer. Easy peasy. Remove the wheel. All right, so we'll take our pry bar. Try to pry that piston back a little bit. Looks like the pistons are good. Good. And it'll make our job a lot easier to pull this off so it's not seized. Remove the caliper bolts. Remove the caliper. Inspect it. Set it aside so we don't break that. Watch your ears. If not, you can always get a coat hanger and hang it up somewhere. But for now, we're just gonna set it aside over here. Well, holy fuck, she's on there. So we're gonna take some PB Blaster. We're gonna shove it in there. We got a PB or WD-40 or something, some sort of penetrating fluid. Right, to get inside these threads. So like that, we'll give that a second. And if that doesn't work, we'll try grabbing a really long breaker bar. But the problem is, there's not really a whole lot of room in here. Alright, so we're going to take our nice long breaker bar here. Still got some gap between the floor here. We're going to take our handy dandy hammer, start beating at it, but I'm going to use my other hand so I can hold this on here nice and straight so I don't strip the threads. Alright, that's on there really fucking tight. So we're going to take some PB Blaster. And we're going to take a break from that. We're going to let that sit for a while, and we're going to, hopefully this bottom one comes out nice and easy. Just in case. That's nice. Well, the electric impact didn't want to do it. So now we'll try my air impact. This thing's pretty heavy. This is why I hate people. Look at this shit. This will not come off of here. Alright, we're gonna take a break from that. We're gonna remove these 5 bolts and these 5 bolts. We'll remove these pads and we might be able to work around it. Alright, so we took out these 5 Torx bolts. These bolts are still in here, so all I'm gonna do is spin this and then hit this. So hopefully it'll unseize itself and I can just slide it off, hopefully. Alright, so we remove these 5 Torx bolts while we waited for that to set. So if you ever have a stuck bolt like this, what you can do is you can take and loosen it up for a bit, and then you can try tightening it down for about 3 ugga-duggas, and then we'll try that for the bottom one. I got it tightening right now. Now we'll loosen it. And there it goes. Look at that. I told you I'd get these fuckers out. Whew, they were on there. Alright, I'm going to use my knee to hold the caliper so it doesn't fall on my foot. We'll grab it, set it aside. Yeah, these were tight. So now we're going to take the hammer. We're going to do our love taps on the side. We'll spin it. Love tap. Spin it. Love tap. Spin it. And we'll love tap. And then I'm going to grab it with my other hand so I don't drop it on my foot. Alright, got it off. This is heavy, so don't let it hit your foot because it will hurt a lot. We'll remove these 5 bolts. And then we'll tap the rotor. Now, if you weren't replacing the rotor, you don't want to do it this way because, as you can see here, I am destroying this rotor with this steel hammer. I think that did it. Over. Alright, did it that time, so now we can just that. Between some of these studs, we're going to take our torque ratchet here. We're going to torque these down to 46 foot-pounds. Grease these guy off of here. And then we got some brake lubricant here. Don't really need a lot, just here. Put over the new stuff. And I'll lift with my knee. Completely done. Put the wheel back on. We torqued these down to 150 foot-pounds. Flat this back on. And that, guys, is how you replace the brakes on a 2015 Ford Transit.